Before we get to the podcast, I want to talk to you about my friends at Havana Garage. Yeah, Havana Garage is sponsoring the Becca's Talking podcast. Really appreciate it. I also appreciate what they have at Havana Garage. Have you been? It's a great cigar bar in the old market where it has takes you back to another time. You know, there's pictures of Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra on the wall. They've got an incredible whiskey and craft cocktail selection, a wonderful staff, and a humidor you won't believe. Yeah, so you go and whether you enjoy a cigar or not. And by the way, ladies, I tell you what, I see a woman with a cigar. I like that. I'm sorry, maybe I think it's very attractive. Anyway, check out Havana Garage if you're getting ready to go to a concert or maybe a play downtown or just a nice meal in the old market. It's a great way to either start your day or start your evening or wind the night down. Either way, give them a call, give them a stop by, tell them I sent you, tell them you saw it on the Becca's Talking podcast, the Havana Garage in the old market. Welcome to another episode of Becca's Talking, where every podcast we talk with interesting people here, try to inform you, entertain you, educate you, and I think we're going to do that all three with this man right here. This is Brian Kruse. Brian is the elections commissioner for Douglas County, and you may have heard, it's been in all the papers, there's an election coming up. And there's some people are casting doubt about how much you can trust the results. You're here to tell us you can trust the results, right?
Of course. You know, I can speak 100% for, I would say, our jurisdiction, Douglas County, and the state of Nebraska. And, you know, I always hate to speak for other jurisdictions, but I go to conferences and I know these election officials from coast to coast. And, you know, these folks are doing the best job they can. And I'm not going to say everything's 100% perfect, but I'm going to say our elections in this nation are pretty damn good, and voters should trust the outcome.
Okay, so why should they? Let's work through the whole process, okay? Like right now you're still in the process of registering people to vote, right?
That's right. So, you know, I think in most states there may be a couple states that you don't have to be a registered voter, but in most states, including here, you have to be a registered voter. And then we do list maintenance on those rolls every day. People are moving out, they're moving in, we're doing change of addresses, death records, all of those types of things. Our rolls are very clean here in Nebraska. So that's one of the big ones is voter registration. Absolutely.
How much was that involved as far as we just had a lot of petitions that are going to be on the ballot? Were you involved with that too to make sure that these signatures were valid?
Absolutely. So you have to be a registered voter in order for your signature to be accepted. And there's some other, rules and regulations as well. But yes, you have to be a registered voter in order for your signature to count. So again, it was registered voters who signed these petitions, whose signatures were accepted and got enough signatures. We've got 6 of those statewide, either initiatives or referendums that'll be on the ballot in November.
And some of them are going to be challenged in the courts because, the whole thing, democracy is not pretty. It's a messy thing.
It can be very messy, and it will be, we had some rulings from the Nebraska State Supreme Court last week, but there's still a court case ongoing, I understand, in district court, possibly in Lincoln, over one or both of the marijuana petitions. And again, just because these get on the ballot and either the voters accept them or reject them does not mean that's the end. There's always the courts.
Okay, so let's talk then. Okay, so we know you got to have voter ID now.
That's
okay?
Right.
I think most people have driver's licenses or whatever.
Of course.
What other forms of voter ID would work for somebody that maybe doesn't drive or somebody that doesn't have a passport?
Right. Well, one of the important things that I do want to remind your listeners and our voters is expired driver's licenses are accepted, as well as your address on your driver's license does not have to match your voter registration address. The law says it has to be your name and your photo. So as long as you have a Nebraska driver's license that has your name and photo, it'll be accepted. But beyond that, basically anything that has been put forth or is issued by a Nebraska political subdivision. So conceal and carry, U.S. passports. I mean, some of these are federal subdivisions. Military ID. If you work for like the city of Omaha or Douglas County, because those are political subdivisions. Nebraska university and college IDs. All of those types of things. Something that's issued from a political subdivision. Now, if you work at one of the big businesses in Omaha, UP, First National, any of those are not accepted. You probably do have a badge with your name and ID, but those are private entities. So you can't use something from a private entity.
Now, last election was the first time we had voter ID.
That's right.
Now, prior to the voter ID, we never really had any noticeable voter fraud of people that weren't legally allowed to vote trying to vote, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. That is true.
But politically, it was good to get voter ID. I've often said we don't need voter ID, we need voter IQ, but that's my own personal opinion. Okay, so last time we had the voter ID, any problems, any concerns, any things that you want to do better this time around?
Sure. So I would say a couple things. One of the big things is when you go to vote, if you like to vote by mail, you do your voter ID component when you request your ballot. So the nice thing about that is if there is a problem, our office will reach out to the voter to attempt to correct that issue and then mail them a ballot. And we've got lots of time to do that. We're currently in that phase right now. Ballots get mailed out for the first time on September 30th. So we're in that phase right now. So that's the big one. The other thing I would say is we had over 97,000 people vote in the May primary, and we only had 11 of the special provisionals for individuals who didn't have proper ID.
Now, explain to me, like you're voting by mail, okay? You're voting by mail. How do you get that voter ID? How does that work? I'm a little bit confused on that.
So if you're voting by mail, what you do, the simplest and easiest way is to write your driver's license or state ID from Nebraska on the form, and then we check that. We have agency sharing with the state of Nebraska. So then we verify your signature, your driver's license behind the scenes, and then we'll mail you a ballot. Again, if you don't have a Nebraska state ID or driver's license, you can include a photocopy of one of the other acceptable forms of ID and send it to our office.
Is this, when you do all this checking like this, is this done like through artificial intelligence and computers, or are these like, people that work for you that are just sitting there at a desk 8 hours a day checking all this stuff?
That's a great question.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Yes, in Nebraska, it's human beings that do this. Every signature that was on one of those petitions in Douglas County and across the state of Nebraska were physically looked at by a human being. The same with the early voting applications. Everyone's looked at by a person, and when we start getting ballots back, every one of those is reviewed by a person.
Now, personally, okay, so during COVID, I voted by mail.
Sure.
Right? But I'm old school. I like going. I like standing in line with my neighbors. I like going in there. I like wearing the "I voted today" sticker. I just love the ritual of it all. Okay, so you need volunteers to man these polling places, right?
We do. We need poll workers, and obviously this is our biggest election, so this takes the most. It'll be about 3,000 election workers strong across Douglas County alone. 2,400 of those will be at polling places, and then the other 600 do various jobs at our office and help us. We are all set for the November election. Poll worker training is underway now, but of course, we have city elections right around the corner in the spring. So if you want to be a poll worker, please go to our website, votedouglascounty.com, and sign up. And it's a great way to learn about the process.
So basically, for the November election, you've got the workers you need.
We do. We do for November, but we need more people for April and May.
Again, personal opinion here. The idea that we can't just vote for like the mayor and the governor on an off-year election just blows my mind. It's a waste of money. It's, people are just tired of elections. But by the time the mayor's race comes around, people are going to say, oh, my God, But
well, and don't forget, we could have a special election from a school district or something like that in February.
Yeah.
So you talk about voter fatigue from those poor people if you happen to be in that political subdivision.
Okay, so it's election day, okay? It's election day. Let's go through the process. So early in the morning, they're opening up the polls, right? The volunteers are there. They go in, they check the IDs and everything. You go in and you vote. After I vote, I go and I slide it into the box, right?
Yep.
How do I know that box is secure? How do I know it's not being fidgeted with? How do I know that there's not somebody out there trying to manipulate it in some way?
Right. So when you go to your polling place, you'll notice, for one thing, that the boxes are sealed. You'll notice, you can look if you're an election day voter, that those boxes are sealed. The other thing that you will notice, and this is a law, is that voters are not allowed to put their own ballot in the box. There is an election worker there that you hand your ballot to, and they place it in the box. So, that's by design, that's a controlled environment, that the election worker is placing that in the box for you.
And they got to show the initials on the bottom of the page.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what that election worker is doing. They're looking to make sure that once you put it in your sleeve, that there are initials there from when you signed in, to make sure that that's a legitimate ballot.
Okay, so then that's in there now, and the same thing is true of people that go and because they can get an early ballot and then just drop it off at your office or a number of other different locations. Now, it's the same process basically. I would assume goes from those boxes as at the polls themselves.
Absolutely, and if you're a by mail voter, you will notice that my deputy and I have our initials on the bottom there of the ballot. Okay,
so now it's election day, all right? The ballots are in. Now they come to your office.
Yes.
All right. You're a Republican. You've been appointed by a Republican governor.
We're a nonpartisan office, but it's not hard to figure out what I am when the governor appoints me.
Yeah. Okay. So and that's with every state, isn't it? Yeah.
We're unique in that fact. A lot of election officials are actually elected.
Okay.
So it's not probably real hard to figure out what they are either. But I have a deputy who's the opposite party of mine by law, and I appoint him, and his or her term is congruent with mine.
That's what I wanted to get to. So even though you're a Republican, there are Democrats that are overseeing the same thing.
Of course. And yes, absolutely. And, beyond that, we have all kinds of cameras and other security measures. And you must keep in mind that if you do commit election fraud, that's a felony. And, I've never seen a federal prison, and I probably don't ever want to.
I'll go along with you on that. And we've not had anybody, have we? Has Douglas County ever had anybody that got convicted of voter fraud?
Not since I've been here since 2016. I would say in recent times, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, so now it's back in your office. By the way, if you've not been to the election commissioner's office, people can come and take a look, right?
Yeah, we've got right there in the lobby, we're at Bel Air Plaza, 120th and Center. If you like to early vote or whatever, you can come. There's windows from the front counter into the counting room, and it's all transparent and stuff. Absolutely. You could come and look into the counting room. Now on election night, because we're so busy, there are laws in place that allow for political parties to appoint a ballot counting watcher. So we have that as a controlled environment. So on election night, we can't just have hundreds of people showing up wanting to watch, but the parties can appoint somebody.
And how many people will be there for that, both Republican and Democrat?
Yes, I would suspect both Republican and Democrat will be there. We do have other parties in Nebraska. We've never had any of them like Legal Marijuana Now, Libertarian. None of them have ever sent anybody, but it is their right to.
Okay, but how many people? Like, well, does it like two from each party, or there'll be like?
It's one person. The law says one person from each party appointed by the Central Committee.
Okay,
so it's just one person.
So you're not dealing with a mob or
correct.
Okay, all right, cool. Now, what about the people that like the mail-in votes now? Okay, that when you'll start getting the mail-in votes, are those counted right away, or what happens to those?
Sure. So once mail-in ballots go out, and then they start to come back to us, then we check those in each and every day. So we empty them from our drop boxes and we go to the post office and get the mail, and then we scan those in every day, and so we know which ones come from which drop boxes or the mail, and we check signatures and all of that and verify all that. Then they are actually stored in our vault at our office. Nebraska state law allows for early voting ballots to be counted on the Monday before the election, which we do. We do that. Now, the results are not combined. We have 9 machines. The results are not combined. They are just taken off the machines on separate military-grade thumb drives that are secure. And then those are stored in safes inside our vault with cameras until Tuesday evening about 7 o'clock. And then we begin to compile those results.
Let's talk about that a little bit, okay? Because a lot's been said about the computers counting the votes.
Yes.
All right? And that's where a lot of the doubt has come from. Computers counting the votes. How can the voter be secure in knowing that these computers aren't messing with the tabulation?
Absolutely. So one of the big things is we use paper ballots. And I just read an article the other day. It said I think 98% of all of the United States uses paper ballots now. Again, some jurisdictions were going to electronic voting. 98% use paper ballots. So that's a big one. The other one is we have 9 machines that essentially read the ovals you fill in. Those machines are never connected to each other or the internet. They don't even have a modem in them. They don't even have the ability to be connected to the internet. And so then once we're done counting on each of the 9 machines, it's military-grade thumb drives provided to us by our supplier, which is Election Systems and Software, ES&S.
Which is out of Omaha.
They're
a worldwide election facility, but they're based out of Omaha.
Yes, they started here in the 70s. Douglas County was their first partner. Some of your viewers or listeners may remember Mike Boyle. He was the election commissioner back when that all started. Mm-hmm. And then we take these military grade thumb drives to what we call an air-gap computer. It's a laptop computer that's never connected to the outside world. All 9 of these thumb drives are put into this computer, and then we have an external hard drive that we burn the results onto a CD. Like CDs we used to listen to when we were kids.
I remember those, yeah.
Yes. And so then we take that CD and we put that into an external hard drive on one of our computers that is connected to the outside world. We get the results off of that CD, and then we post them on our website and to the media and every place else.
I want to go back just a second and talk a little bit more about ESS.
Yes.
Okay, which, of course, like I said, is based here in Omaha.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, I had a meeting in a building that was next. I thought it was in the building that ESS is located in. All right. And so I walked in and, just go, and I couldn't get anywhere. I mean, it was like, no, sorry, sir, you don't belong here. Get out. And that. So that's a very secure place also.
Oh, yeah. We work very closely with them. They're a very honorable and reputable company, and it's very, very secure over there. Over half of the ballots cast in the United States will be counted on some type of their machines in this presidential election. They're obviously very well respected.
Now, is that the software that you use, or is there a different software that you use? Because I know with all the lawsuits with Fox News and Newsmax and all that stuff, where they were criticizing the software. What software is the county using?
That's right. So since we use ES&S machines to count, we use their proprietary software to do that as well.
And as I recall, nobody was questioning them.
No,
they were questioning other software, but they weren't questioning them.
In large part, that's true. The big one was Dominion, I think.
Yeah.
And but yes, I mean, we've had no problems with ES&S, to be honest with you.
Did it surprise you going back 4 years when they're challenging these other states that Trump lost and they're challenging the election results? Did it surprise you that this was the blue dot? Did it surprise you they didn't come after you as well?
You know, I guess not. I guess looking back on it, not really, because it really didn't come down to us. Where this election, I mean, they say this every time, that it could come down to the blue dot. But if you look at more serious scenarios this time, there's a possibility it really could come down to us this time. So I haven't gotten any national media requests yet. I mean, I've done a podcast and a radio station in Detroit and a few things like that, but I wouldn't say anything serious. But we'll see what happens as we inch closer to the election and what the polls say. You know, now they're saying the polls are showing them within 4 points in Iowa. So if things really start to become closer, we could be under scrutiny. But I will tell you this, Tom, we have processes and procedures that are tried and true. We've done them for years. We're not going to change a thing. We're not going to change a thing because I'm 100% confident in what we do. And whether it's you looking at it or it's the New York Post or ABC News, I am confident in the way we do things.
Are you concerned, or is your staff concerned, about possible violence or intimidation or just harassment this election?
You know, that's probably been, honestly, the biggest change since I've been there since 2016. Obviously, we're a lot more aware of our surroundings, what's happening. I wouldn't say we're afraid of it. I would say it's definitely on our radar. We work hand in hand with law enforcement here in Douglas County. Aaron Hansen's been a great partner of ours. You know, there's different organizations that are monitoring things for us and watching things. You know, we've talked about different scenarios. God forbid anything would happen. But we definitely have more conversations about those things than we used to have.
Okay, so now the voting's been done, the tabulations have been done, and you've got still to count provisional ballots, right? And that sort of thing. So even though on election night, having covered election night for a number of years, you get like the first results come out at what, at 7 o'clock?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. First results come at 8 o'clock, which are the early day voting, right? The first wave of voting in the morning.
Nope. We now release early voting by mail.
Oh, that, okay.
At 8 o'clock because it's almost 50% Douglas County now, and we count them on Monday. So 8 p.m. is early voting. So if you're an early voter and you get your ballot in basically before Monday evening, your voice is going to be the first heard on election night. 8:45 is 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. voting on election day. And then 9:45 begins the 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. voting on election day. Then 10:45, 11:45, maybe 12:45, but I hope I'm ready to go home and go to bed after that.
Okay, so now you've got it done. So say these are the winners, these are the losers, but you still got work to do, right?
That's right. And one of the things that I'm really, really emphasizing with campaigns on both sides here, all campaigns, and to the voters of Douglas County, is we do not find ballots here. Just because some ballots are counted after Election Day, we do not find ballots here. early voting ballots that are turned in to our drop boxes Monday night and Tuesday on Election Day have to be checked in. Signatures have to be verified, and that's called election integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that on the Wednesday and Thursday following November 5th. Then we will count those on the Friday following the election, and then the following Friday, we will count the provisional ballots. So again, that's called election integrity, to make sure that these are, done properly and accepted correctly. We do not find ballots in Douglas County.
If you're mailing it in, as long as it's postmarked on Election Day, or when does that have to be postmarked by?
We do not. The law does not allow postmarks here. If you're an early voter, it has to be in our possession by 8 p.m. when the polls close.
Okay.
So that's either in a drop box or in our possession.
Okay. And then, like you said, provisional ballots and all that, very rarely does that really change the outcome, but it can.
It definitely can. It definitely can. But yes, it's unusual. Sometimes races will tighten up. Sometimes it may cause a recount. Sometimes it may cause it to go outside of a recount range. But I would say that it's definitely not the norm that it changes the outcome, but it certainly can. It certainly can.
Okay, so now, all done, right? You got the results, but it's still not over yet.
That's right.
Right, because now you got to send your results to Bob Evnen, the Secretary of State.
That's right. So we do a big, extensive, what we call canvass process or audit to make sure that everything matches up and that there's not big discrepancies. And that's why elections are always unofficial until we canvass. So in Douglas County, we always canvass the third Thursday after the election. So once our canvass is done, and part of that canvass process or audit process is the Secretary of State assigns us certain precincts and certain races to go and do a hand count on to make sure that the machines counted them correctly.
Oh, so okay, so I understand what canvassing means. So after you've got the machines counting everything, then Secretary of State will say, okay, I want you to count this precinct, that precinct, and this precinct, and you'll do a hand count of those precincts to see how they match up to what the computer said.
Exactly. And we've always, since I've been there, 100% has matched up.
Okay, good.
So then once that happens, then we send those to Bob Evnen, the Secretary of State. Then the state canvass board meets, and they'll meet like the first Monday in December, I believe it is. And then if there's any recounts, they will direct us to do that. And this year, it's going to be on that Wednesday. I believe it's December 4th, if there's any recounts ordered by the Nebraska Secretary of State.
Okay, so then after recounts and all that, then Bob Evnen says, okay, this is legit, right?
That's right. It's all 5 constitutional officers. The governor, I don't know if the lieutenant governor, but it's the constitutional officers that go, they present their findings, and they sign off on it, and then the election is certified. Then that's when the Electoral College happens after that.
What if, okay, you say all 5 have got to sign off on it.
I believe, yeah. AG, yeah, yes.
Okay, AG, Governor, Secretary of State.
Treasurer, Auditor.
Okay, so they got to sign off on it. Politics being what it is, what we're seeing these days, what if 1 or 2 of them refuse to accept it?
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. Unfortunately, it's never happened here, so I don't know. I guess I don't know.
That's why you've got lawyers looking over all this stuff, right?
Oh, yes. I often tell Don Klein, I'm not an election lawyer, but I often play one. But I always tell Don, but I'll check with you before I make the decision.
Okay, so that might be. So, I mean, I think here in Nebraska, I don't see that happening.
Correct.
But again, you never know.
I'd be surprised, but you never know.
Yeah.
But I would hope that wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Okay, so then after all of that, then it goes to Electoral College, and then they do the ceremonial verification on D.C., and then
and then
all hell breaks loose.
And then we're off, and I guess Inauguration Day happens.
Yeah. Okay, so how do you combat the misinformation? I mean, you've been very honest with me about these answers here. You've been very straightforward with the process. So I feel very confident about, the election, okay? But there's going to be people that are listening to this and watching this that are just going to say, well, no, it's all part of the deep state and all that. How do you combat that, or can you combat that?
One of the big ways is our media partners. And it's the TV, it's the radio, it's the newspapers. Digital, just like this, is a big thing now. Social media is a big part of our education plan too, as well as, honestly, going out and speaking to groups. My deputy and I are doing that all the time. We're doing that 3, 4, 5 times a week now. And it doesn't really matter if it's 10 people or 100 people, but then those folks go out, and they tell their friends and neighbors when they're at church or the grocery store or neighborhood event or things of that nature. So really, it's just word of mouth. And, I guess in the end and the bottom line is, we try very hard to instill confidence in the voters here in Douglas County. And I believe that the vast majority of voters in Douglas County do have confidence in our office, and they should have confidence in our office. But, at some point in time, you have to believe the facts. I mean, we're always willing to listen to folks, and it makes us better when folks bring things to our attention, whether they turn out to be correct or incorrect. But at some point in time, the facts are the facts, and you got to believe the facts. I mean, the fact is the earth is round, right?
I've talked to people that would disagree with you on that, but that's another topic for another day. You say you were appointed by the governor.
That's right.
All right, Pete Ricketts, right?
That's correct.
Okay. New governor's in place.
Yep.
Do you serve at the will of the governor, or do you have a term that Jim Pillen can't do anything with you until your term is up?
That's right. So they're 4-year terms. There are no term limits on this. Don't have to be approved by the legislature. It's solely a governor's pick. Mm-hmm. And our term is what we call a protected term. So I'm there for 4 years. And my term does not follow the governor's 4 years. I'm 1 year into the next governor. So when Governor Pillen first got elected, he was stuck with me for a year, whether he liked me or not. Apparently, he thought I was doing okay because he reappointed me. But when Governor Pillen, if he leaves, well, he'll have to because he's term limited. Yeah. But if, say, he does 2 terms and I'm still there, I will go a year then into the next governor. And if that happens to be somebody from a different party, that's too bad. They're stuck with me for a year. Okay.
And then you might end up being the deputy.
You could end up being the deputy. I've always said I'm confident in the job I did. If that were to happen and switch parties, I'd probably ask for a reappointment. Probably not going to happen, but you don't know unless you ask.
Sure. Now, does like in the case with your deputy, the Democrat, does the party give them the job, or does the governor give them the job? How does that work?
So it says the parties have to nominate at least 3 individuals, and they send the names to us, and then the election commissioner, myself, interviews them, and then I choose somebody, and they serve along with me for the 4 years. So my deputy, Kruse, he actually was there before me. He served with Mr. Phipps, the previous election commissioner. When I came on, I didn't see any reason. The party submitted his name again. I didn't see any reason not to have him. It's kind of nice to have some knowledge coming into a new job. And we've just worked spectacularly well together. He is just a great person. We're both like-minded in the fact that we're nonpartisan. Now, we have very different views on a lot of issues, but we're very nonpartisan, and we always try and do what's best for the voters of Douglas County.
It is so refreshing to hear talk like this. When you see the rhetoric and the social media and some of the stuff that, people are saying and putting out there, it's so nice to hear this, how the system works and that the system does work and that you can have faith in the system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you should have faith in the system. We've got all kinds of processes and procedures in place to test the machines, the paper ballots. Not to mention, we just got a very new, robust camera system about a year ago. We've got 52 cameras, 39 in our office, 13 on drop boxes. The only place you could go in our office without being on camera is the restroom.
That's what he wants you to believe. I'm sorry. You got the word conspiracy in there somewhere, right? You got the word conspiracy in there somewhere.
Exactly.
Well, anything else that you want to mention that let people know?
So a couple of things that I would like to leave our viewers with is if you're an early voter, and the vast majority of those are early voters by mail, it's about 50% now. It's about 50-50. Once you get that ballot, fill it out and return it as soon as you're comfortable. The sooner the better. Because again, if you wait until election day to turn those in, we've got to process them after the fact. Otherwise, we've got 207 neighborhood polling places across the county. And the one big thing that I want to leave voters with is this is an unprecedented ballot. If there will be 6 statewide initiatives or referendums. If you live in the city of Omaha, you're going to have 6 bond issues, 2 charter amendments, and a good life district. You're going to have the president, 2 senators, a 2-year term Senator Pete Ricketts, and the 6-year term Senator Deb Fischer, because of the way that Senator Sass resigned, a congressman, a whole bunch of down ballot offices, and judges. So education is the key to this election. Because if you live in the city of Omaha, you're going to have 13 issues to vote on besides judges and all the candidates.
And a lot of the parties are really working on getting their people in the down ballots. School board and the like. They're really working on that. So it is. You're right. Be educated on that. Be educated on who you're voting for. Because look, I hate to admit this. I think I'm a rather informed voter, but there are just some races where you get down towards the end of the ballot and it's like, oh, that sounds like a bohemian name. I'm a Bohunk. Yeah, I'll vote for him. No idea, what this person stands for. But, they got a name that sounds like, one of my ancestors might have had. So, okay, what the hell, and that's wrong. That's wrong. So, yeah, do your research, especially on the down ballot issues. And they can go to your website and get a ballot, right? Or basically a mock ballot.
That's right. So, beginning October 1st, you can go to our website, votedouglascounty.com. Right on the homepage, it says find your voting information. Just put a little bit of information in there, and it will give you a sample of the exact ballot and everything you will be voting on. And it will also show you your election polling place and a picture of it if you like to be a polling place voter. And again, I would just encourage those of you that like to go to the polling place, please check that website, because just because you voted at St. Mark's United Methodist Church 2 years ago might not be where you vote this time. We do send cards out to voters, but polling places, a few of them change every time for a variety of reasons. So just make sure you know where you're going on Election Day before you head out the door. It just saves frustration for voters and us.
Every time I think I'm done with questions, like another one pops in my head. Voter registration.
Yes.
There was a lot of news that was made that after Taylor Swift had endorsed Kamala Harris, there was a big rush to register voters. Did you see that here?
We did. We did see that. We get around 225 to 250 a day usually. I think last Thursday, it was either last Thursday or Friday, we got almost 1,200. Now, then the next few days we're in the 500-600s. We've settled back. We're about 300 now. So we definitely saw that bump. Now, that doesn't mean all of those are new voters. A lot of those will probably be duplicates, people registering again just to make sure that they're registered, which is fine. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah. Are you noticing, are they registering, are people registering as independents, Republicans, Democrats? Have you noticed any trends here in Douglas County?
You know, I will say this, over the last, I would say, year or two, in Douglas County, the Democratic voter registration used to be somewhere in the 8, 9, 10,000 range, more than Republicans. Now it's about 4,000. So I don't know if the Republican Party is doing anything concerted to do that, or if people are changing. You never know what drives folks' voter registration. So that's one trend I've noticed. The other is 25% of our voters are nonpartisans now. And that's probably our group that's gaining the most steam, honestly.
Yeah, they just say, a pot's on both your houses. I'm nonpartisan.
That's exactly right.
I'm nonpartisan. All right, I'll tell you what, Brian, I really appreciate this, because I think that I hope people do watch this. I hope they do listen to it. I hope they educate themselves and be a smart voter. Like I said, we don't need voter ID. We need voter IQ. And regardless how you're going to vote, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you vote. What matters is that your voice is heard, and that you're an educated voter, that you're doing it because you know who you want, why you're doing it, and this is the country that you want to live in, because we're going to have to live with these results for a while.
Yes, we are. For president, you're going to have to live with them for the next 4 years. Other offices are 2 years, 4 years, 6 years.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, please vote what's best for you and your family.
And again, the website is
votedouglascounty.com.
Thanks for listening. This podcast is brought to you by Havana Garage at 10th and Howard, an incredible, wonderful cigar bar. The leather chairs, the atmosphere, the music, the humidor, the wine and beer and whiskey selection, craft cocktails. It's a great place for a happy hour, a great place to have right before or after dinner, a great place before or after a concert or an event downtown. Tell them Becca sent you when you stop on by. Havana Garage, 10th and Howard in the Old Market. Been there a long time, and you don't stay in the bar business a long time unless you've got a great place, and Havana Garage is a great place. Till next time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Tell your friends, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff, so people know that Becca's talking. Take care, and bye, y'all.